Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to feed.
Now, Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, bark like a dog for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Take the cannolis.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
You see, Officer?
I know. You're going to a fire.
Oh, no, we're going to a hospital. You see, the kid is sick.
Yeah, he's in agony. A terrific case of the croup.
I'm not sick.
Oh, yes, you are, sweetness.
I feel fine.
You see, he's delirious.
Oh, yeah? Well, what's wrong with him?
He has gall trouble. This kid has more gall than any kid I ever saw.
Well, you birds are going to be plenty sick when you get a look at this ticket.
Aha, welcome to Everything Old is New Again. Douglas Viviani with our resident clown himself, David Cohen.
Wow, gee, thanks. Who was that we just heard?
We just heard Wheeler and Woolsey, and they're not.
Wheeler and Woolsey.
They are not in the final 68 funniest people of all time in our Mayhem, but there they are. I just wanted to play them just to introduce the fact that we are still continuing to try to determine, aka sort of the NCAA bracket system, who is the funniest person of all time. We're joined by our rather witty friend, Dan Newberger. Dan, how are you?
Hey now.
Where's that Hank Kingsley? Is that Hank Kingsley? Dan, I'm impressed that you keep coming back for this.
I'm a glutton for punishment, my friend.
And
nice to know there's other people without lives.
Exactly. His input is immeasurable. It certainly, at the very least, gives us three voices so that we have a tie-breaking vote as we go through.
And a voice of reason, and that someone actually wants to listen to. So it's good for our show.
Exactly. Someone that has
to be here.
friends that can send out some social media invites as well. Listen, we've got the Marx Brothers against Johnny Carson. Let's hear a little something from the Marx Brothers first.
Hey, I tell you what I do. I give you three guesses. It's the name of a fish. Is it Mary? That's an old fish. She isn't. Well, she drinks like one. Let me see. Is it sturgeon? Hey, you crazy. Sturgeon, he's a doctor who cuts you open when you're sick. Now, I give you one more chance. I got it. Haddock. That's so funny. I got a haddock, too. What do you take for a haddock? Well, now, sometimes I take aspirin, or sometimes I take a calomel. I'd walk a mile for a calomel. You mean chalk or calomel? I like that, too, but guess it.
Why, I've never been so insulted in my life.
Well, it's early yet.
He's had a change of heart.
A lot of good that'll do him. He's still got the same face.
This lady is my wife. You should be ashamed.
If this lady is your wife, you should be ashamed.
She looks as healthy as any woman I've ever met.
You don't look as though you ever met a healthy woman.
What?
I could dance with you till the cows come home.
Yeah.
On second thought, I'd rather dance with the cows till you come home.
All right, there we go. And Johnny Carson.
Spit, scratch, and complain.
Harnack.
What are the three qualifications to be a Major League Baseball player? A wed wobe. What does Barbara Walters wear over her wed pajamas? Sis boom ba.
Sis boom ba.
Describe the sound made when a sheep explodes.
Rickles, hold, stop the taping. I just started the show. I picked my box up off my desk that I've had for 9 years. My box is broken. They told me you broke it on the show last night. Well, I really... You get
All right, we will start with Dan on this. Marx Brothers versus Johnny Carson.
Yeah. Wow. That's a hard one to start on. So this generated a lot of interesting feedback from various of your listeners.
Good.
So I thought going in, I debated this one. This is another battle of the heavyweights in my mind. The battle royale if you're a wrestling fan. I'm really torn on this one. So Johnny Carson, I think, is hilarious. And as you pointed out when we talked about David Letterman against Dan Aykroyd, doing this every night of the week for such a long period of time really takes a special talent and a different comedic mindset. Interestingly, one of the viewers, Jim from New York, said that he loves Johnny Carson, but he found that Johnny Carson wasn't as funny in reruns that he's been apparently watching on TV. I'm not sure what station is carrying it, but and the Marx Brothers, I loved them growing up. But some of the clips that you just shared, I vividly remember those and many more. Scott from New York said that the Marx Brothers' work is timeless, particularly Groucho Marx. And Eric F. from Chicago said that Groucho Marx is like the Jedi Knight of comedy. And I have to tell you, I could go either way on this, but I'm going to go with the Marx Brothers, I think.
Okay. How about that? David Cohen, where are you?
Yeah, it's hard to not pick Johnny Carson, though. I mean, he's just, I don't want to say anything about John. Everyone knows him, so whatever I'm saying has been said a billion times. But the Marx Brothers, I think, have an advantage because, first of all, there were at least 3 of them, right? So every movie, you weren't just laughing at Groucho, although that was the majority of the laughs. But Harpo, he had some iconic scenes in the movies where he didn't say a word, and it was just a silent, maybe 5-minute clip, like when he steps into the lemonade of his competitor, takes his socks and shoes off, rolls up his pants, and actually gets in the lemonade tank to piss the guy off. I mean, just some really classic stuff that to this day I still laugh at. So I'm going with the Marx Brothers too.
Yeah, Marx Brothers have a little bit of an advantage. It's not like they had a straight man, so to speak, and a comedian, right? Like Abbott Costello. You got Groucho, who's hysterical. We've heard those clips. We've got Harpo, who never said a word, but really added a whole nother character that was funny. And Chico, even playing the piano, was funny. So it's sort of like 3 against 1, if that makes any sense. It's tough. And Carson was funny, and they all talk about the best interviewer for sure. So of course this is heavyweight against heavyweight, but I'm going to join with you on the Marx Brothers on this and see where that takes us. But so the Marx Brothers wins that one.
Yeah, that's hard to believe that Johnny Carson didn't make it past the first round, as we had a couple of other upsets too. But I will remind you that the Marx Brothers did have a 4th brother who was the straight man, and that was Zeppo Marx.
Yes, not in every movie, just in the beginning.
Gummo, that's right.
Gummo. But they dropped them after a while.
Well, Groucho had a straight man. Margaret, what was the actress's name who was in a lot of?
Yeah,
she was sort of the straight man to him.
Margaret with a D.
Whoever else he happened to be making fun of in the movie, so he could always find a straight man.
But I'm just saying there was 3 funny characters there against the one. So okay, Lily Tomlin against Key and Peele. Key and Peele we've heard previously. There's no clip there. Little something from Lily Tomlin. We'll see what happens.
Today, I think most people in general worry a lot. In fact, anybody who's not worried, I worry about. I worry that the person who thought up leisure suits is busy thinking up what we should do with our leisure time. I worry terribly that we all forget to wash our barbecue grills. I worry that we invented quality control because we thought if we didn't control it, it could get out of hand.
There we go. So we start with David Cohen on this one. David.
I don't remember much about her stand-up, but Lily Tomlin, just on the various shows she's been on over her career, laughing and the character she created there. She's just great. And who was the other one?
Key and Peele.
Key and Peele. I know it's going to be controversial, but I got to go with Lily Tomlin because I think Key and Peele were very funny for a very short amount of time. Lily Tomlin, I think, spanned many, many years, and anytime I'd ever seen her, I just thought she was so talented and so funny. So I'm going with her.
All right, good. I'm going to make this interesting. I'm going to say Key and Peele. I don't care about the time frame, though. I recognize that is a factor. But just when I tune into them, they never stop making me laugh, almost to the point of, I don't want to say, but laughing so hard. I don't think Lily Tomlin's ever done that for me. So I'm going to go with it that way and leave it up to Dan.
I'm gonna vote with David on this one. Lily Tomlin. I remember the one ringy dingy, the operator. I think was on Laughing. I think she's really funny and talented, and I don't feel super strongly about either one of these, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna just flip my vote to Lily Tomlin.
There you go. So we've got the Marx Brothers and Lily Tomlin so far. We'll be back right after this and Everything Old is New Again to continue the brackets on Mayhem to find out who is the funniest of all time and Everything Old is New Again.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, this is Tom Dreesen. After 50 years of stand-up comedy, there's nothing I enjoy more than listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
There we go. That's Frank
Rolls right off their
Sinatra's.
tongue. Everybody, it rolls right off their tongue.
Exactly.
With Doug, yeah.
Oh, there'll be a day when they'll know it. They'll know it so well. Who knows why? Listen, bottom line, Tom Dreesen, comedian. I don't know. 50 years he's saying as a comedian. He's certainly one of his.
He's only 35, so that's not sure I believe it.
Known for being the comedian that opened for Frank Sinatra when Sinatra was on tour. So we're talking about comedy here. We are with Dan Neuberger, David Cohen, trying to determine who is the funniest person of all time. We've got Will Ferrell.
Other than Doug Viviani.
Yes, well, not in that game. Will Ferrell, not till I get paid, right? Will Ferrell versus Jerry Seinfeld. Let's see what this is about.
But the last time I checked, we don't have a whole lot of songs that feature the cowbell.
I gotta have more cowbell, baby. Guess what? I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
So I go to see Christopher Walken years later in a play. I say hello to him backstage, and he's like, you've ruined my life. People during the curtain call bring cowbells and ring them. I think he was really mad at me.
Wow,
Yeah.
There you go. And Jerry Seinfeld.
And why is McDonald's still counting? This is really insecure, isn't it? Does it mean anything to anyone? 89 billion sold. Okay. I'll have one. I would love to meet the chairman of the board of McDonald's. Just say to him, look, we all get it. You've sold a lot of hamburgers, whatever the hell the number is. Just put up a sign, McDonald's, we're doing very well. What is their ultimate goal? To have cows just surrendering voluntarily or something? Showing up at the door. We like to turn ourselves in. We see the sign. We realize we have very little chance out there.
Okay, so David Cohen, you start this one off. Where are you going to go with this?
You couldn't have gone with, again, with these clips. It's like the worst of.
Listen, if they're supposed to be funny, then whatever they do is supposed to be funny, right?
That's not true. Well, you're finding the stuff that they'd probably rather forget. All right. So this is Jerry Seinfeld versus
Will Ferrell.
I love Will Ferrell. He's crazy. I think he might legitimately be, a little weird. And is just always makes me laugh no matter what he does. But with that said, listen, Seinfeld is Seinfeld. I think he's still, one of the top stand-up comedians of all time. And his show is the greatest sitcom of all time. And, the driving around the coffee with whatever that series is that he has now is also really good. So, Seinfeld.
Okay, I'm just going to be contrary, just to be contrary, tell you the truth. But I will go with Will Ferrell. I'll tell you why. Every movie he's done, and I might be insane, and I probably am, it makes me laugh. Every single one. And besides that, when he's been on Saturday Night Live, almost every skit he's been on has made me laugh. The guy hasn't missed. I don't know what to say. It's crazy to say. Seinfeld, I love. Yes. I enjoy that kind of comedy. Yes. His show, I cannot turn off and did not turn off when it was on. However, to me, it was a collaboration with Larry David, and I don't know that Seinfeld even wrote any of the scripts, but I'm not taking that away from him. But I'm just, he did create the show. I'm trying to be contrary to pass this off to Dan Neuberger. So I'm going with Will Ferrell for those reasons.
Thanks a lot. So I don't know that Seinfeld would have been as funny without the kismet of having met and, coordinated with Larry David. I'm not taking that away from him. I think he's a brilliant observational comedian, but I have to tell you, I had a very bad experience with Jerry Seinfeld one time. I actually met him years ago. It's a long story, but the short version is I was at a very small show that he did. I knew he was going to be there that night. I collect autographed books, and so I bought a copy of his book, Sign Language, asked him to sign it after the show. and he turned his back on me and said, "Talk to my publicist." And I said, he's a comedian, so I thought he was joking. So I walked around him again and I handed him the book. I said, no, seriously, would you do me a favor and sign my book? And he goes, no, seriously, talk to my publicist.
Oh my
And he turned his
God.
back on me again. Now, mind you, I was working at a very large company that he was our spokesman. We paid him $7 million a year. And I was one of the senior executives of that company. And I just thought it was really rude. So I sat back down at the table, and one of the CEO's secretary saw what was happening, and she came over and said, "What just happened?" And I explained it to her. She goes, "Give me the book." She takes the book, she walks over to him, he signs it, and she hands it back to me. I'm like, that's not right. So that left a really bad taste in my mouth about Jerry Seinfeld. Now, having said that, I would have.
May I just interrupt for a moment? What were the magic words she said to get it signed?
I don't know, but I think it was that she was, a young woman asking him, as opposed to, a middle-aged white guy. And I don't know. Just look, whatever the reason was.
Yeah. All right. I thought you may have gotten it. Yeah.
Just don't be rude. I mean, I get it. You're famous.
You voted for Bill Cosby, Dan.
Yeah, no, I know. Actually, I didn't vote for Bill Cosby.
Good point.
So all of that said, I don't mean to disparage the guy. That was just my experience. But I would have still voted for Will Ferrell because, like what Doug was saying, he has been hilariously funny in TV, SNL, etc. In movies. One of my favorite movies is Elf. I think he is laugh out loud in that movie. I think the guy's brilliant, so I'm going with Will Ferrell.
Oh, huge upset.
Jerry
How do you like
Seinfeld
that?
getting knocked out in the first round.
Yes, a huge upset. Will Ferrell. Oh, I love it. Good man, Dan.
You're both wrong.
No.
I accept that. I can live with it.
All right, we're going to move on. Hey, we wish we had more time.
First, there's Andy Kaufman can't get it past the play-in, and then
Bob Hope's out too.
Past the first round.
Sid Caesar is out. How does Sid Caesar not be in the final four? Just because you don't know him.
My grandfather didn't even know who Sid Caesar was. Listen, Seinfeld
Rodney
was big. I can't believe he's out.
Rodney Dangerfield was
correct. He's
voted
out
off
too.
The island. I mean, it's crazy.
All right, Don Knotts, Albert Brooks. Don Knotts, Albert Brooks.
Emancipation Proclamation
Knotts and Albert.
Was a
That's the last two.
proclamation's what it was.
For the
It was
second.
these folks. How else was they going to get themselves
Albert Brooks.
emancipated unless there was a
Hey,
proclamation?
it's Albert Brooks.
So they got themselves a proclamation and they called it the Emancipation Proclamation.
We don't need the clips.
All right, so we don't need the clip. We know Don Knotts and Albert Brooks. You don't need a clip for Albert Brooks. A little something about the nest egg. Remember this?
But you didn't understand it, and that's why we're where we are.
Understood the nest egg.
Well, please do me a favor. Don't use the word. You may not use that word. It's off limits to you. Only those in this house who understand nest egg may use it, and don't use any part of it either. Don't use nest, don't use egg. If you're out in the forest, you can point. The bird lives in a round stick. And you have things over easy with toast.
You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to give you a small punishment before lunch, and I'd like to have you
Write 1,000 times on the pavement. I lost the nest egg. Come on, I lost the nest egg. Say it first. Say it 500 times. I lost the nest egg. 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 I'm starting.
There we go. Okay. David, did you start the last one? Will Ferrell? No, that was Dan. So yeah, David, you start this one. Go ahead, baby.
Yeah, Albert Brooks. There you go.
Okay. Don Knotts, 5 Emmy Awards as
Don
Barney
Knotts.
Fife.
Come on,
I didn't say he won. 5
Don
Emmys.
Knotts is in this conversation.
He's in tons of movies thereafter, Three's Company thereafter, but as he aged, he really didn't carry the ball anymore. Albert Brooks has never been not funny to me from doing ventriloquism on The Tonight Show in the 70s to Saturday Night Live. He did some films and whatever. Long story short, I think Albert Brooks is a genius when it comes to comedy. So I'm going with Albert Brooks. Dan Newberg.
Yeah, it's a clean sweep. I would have gone with Albert Brooks too.
There we go. Okay, so we are now in the middle of this show, the 4th show. We're narrowing it down to our final 32. We will put the 32 on the website if you want to join in and help us and be quoted, maybe, as Dan has been doing for some listeners, as your opinions, as to where you stand on this. Email us at oldnewagain@aol.com, oldnewagain@aol.com, or if you don't want to email, go to the website, EverythingOldIsNewAgain.biz. EverythingOldIsNewAgain.biz, and there's a section there where you can write to us as well. We will be back right after this with Dick Van Dyke against Jack Benny, George Carlin, Robin Williams. What's going to happen? Who's the funniest of all time?
Hi, this is comedian Wayne Fetterman. I am the author of a new book called The History of Stand-Up, From Mark Twain to Dave Chappelle, and I am on Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Douglas Viviani here with David Cohen and Dan Newberg. David, do you remember having Wayne Fetterman on the show and talking about his book?
I do.
And
I remember
the small tips that we have here between the three of us talking about comedy and all that. It's all in good, clean fun. With him, at some point, it turned to not being so much good, clean fun to him, right? He sort of got a little, I think I get a sense, he didn't say it, but I got a sense he got a little perturbed at some of my questions. No?
Yeah, and especially and after I was explaining why Gilbert Gottfried was funny, he got a little peeved.
So that's why
but if he comes back, we're playing those clips.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
We're putting him on the spot. Like, what? Okay, dude, look, there's, tell us, were you really mad? What's going on?
Right.
Because we value honesty.
I agree 100%. Yeah. And flesh it out, because there's nothing to be mad about. We didn't get personal. We didn't get nasty. We would just talk about stand-up comedy, and we liked this spot. We didn't like that. What do you think? We were just fleshing it out.
So let me get this straight. You guys pissed off a comedian on air?
Yeah. I think pissed off is a little too strong, but we perturbed him for sure.
He didn't seem particularly happy with some of the things we were saying.
Yeah.
Well, you may have given him fodder for, a new bits and pieces in his act. So you may have been doing him a big favor.
It's totally possible. Well, he gave us fodder for stuff.
He
for
needs
us.
something, that's for sure.
All right, let's move on. We got Dick Van Dyke, Jack Benny.
How are you?
Well, I don't know. I just called the doctor, and he said I had plenty of time, but I should start getting ready to go to the hospital.
Oh, my gosh. Honey, keep calm. Keep calm, honey. Just don't panic. There's nothing to get excited about. Honey, I'm coming home. I'll be home. No, wait. You wait for me? You better not wait. Wait for me if you can, honey. If you can't wait for me, don't wait for me. Okay.
All right, there's Dick Van Dyke. We know the Dick Van Dyke Show, of course. Jack Benny.
You've got a lot of nerve saying that I'm stealing your style. Everything I've done since I started in show for 22 years. And if I were going to copy anybody, it wouldn't be an unfunny, untalented upstart like you. Well, now cut that out.
All right, so now we're talking about Jack Benny, who started, of course, in the 30s and 40s on the radio, never stopped to the 50s. He had a TV show later on. Everybody reveres him. When I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, mostly 70s, I would see him on some of these shows here and there, and I didn't think he was that funny till I went back and watched the original stuff. Dick Van Dyke, when I watched that show, even to this day, I cannot get over the acting prowess, the monologues, the physical comedy of Dick Van Dyke. I know it was written for him, but he really took the tutelage of Carl Reiner to heart. So I'm going to be very, I think, controversial here and say Dick Van Dyke for me. Dan.
I'm going to be controversial also and say that I really don't care which one of these two wins, because I don't see them going much further in the and it's not that I don't like both of them. They're both funny people, but I don't think that they're the funniest ever. I would have gone with Dick Van Dyke, but to me, I'm ambivalent. So
okay, so a pass, we'll say. And David Cohen.
Well, Jack Benny, I remember as a kid watching old clips of him, and I thought he was hysterical. It's just so funny. I mean, your money or your life, and he just stands there. And I'm thinking about it. But Dick Van Dyke, I think all around funny, like you were saying, Doug, just the physical comedy, and he was just naturally gifted, funny man and good actor. And I have to give the slight edge to Dick Van Dyke.
Okay, Dick Van Dyke gets that one. We're solving
for no other reason than Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Careful how you say that. Okay. George Carlin, here we go.
George Carlin against...
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Rigidly.
George Carlin against Robin Williams.
Yeah. Football is rigidly timed.
Baseball has no time limit. We don't know when it's going to end. We might even have extra innings.
In football, you get a penalty.
Baseball, you make an error. Whoops.
The object in football is to march downfield and penetrate enemy territory and get into the end zone.
In baseball, the object is to go home.
There we go. Okay. Let's see. We're going to pair that up against Robin Williams.
Yeah, Bob is not a funny guy.
I think Nostradamus said, when they meet, that will be the end.
Now, Charles and Camilla getting married, of course.
They did, which is always lovely that the royal family, all that money and no dental plan.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right, a little something we know, Robin Williams. So let's see who starts that one. That's going to be back to Dan.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Another very difficult decision here. So
Is it?
Yeah, it is for me. I mean, look, I love George Carlin. One of your listeners, Jim in New York, said that George Carlin was the smartest social commentator in my lifetime. I would agree
That's a
with
great
that.
comment. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant insights into society. And so, the clip that you just shared is only one of many that, that are so true but funny the way he presents it. I saw him toward the end of his lifetime. I saw him perform live at the Bergen Pack in New Jersey, and he was trying out new material, and he just came across as an angry man. It wasn't funny at all. Now, that's, in fairness to him, I guess that's how comedians do their, honing their act is live on stage to see how the audience reacts. But Robin Williams, on the other hand, you could tell was so off the cuff, and everything that he said was not only entertaining but funny. So I hate not voting for George Carlin, but I'm gonna vote for Robin Williams.
All right, there we go, David.
I think it's no contest. I never found Robin Williams to be very funny, and I think a lot of the seemingly spontaneous bits he did were all preconceived and just came up at the time, and he just did his little bits. That's just my personal opinion. So George Carlin to me was always funny. I saw Dave Chappelle at the height of his game do a stand-up in New York, and he was trying out new material, and it was bombing, and he actually got mad at the audience, like defiantly upset, and it was very uncomfortable. So listen, you can see bad comedians any night of the week that could bomb no matter who you are. So anyway, long story short, yeah, I got to go with Carlin.
I hate to say it, I never found Robin Williams when he was on those talk shows doing these references and all that stuff. I missed half the references he did. Other half of them I heard him doing over and over again. So like you said, it was planned. George Carlin had me from Class Clown. And so to me, it's George Carlin. Unless I'm rushing a little bit because I want to get this done. We've got some Abbott Costello against Carl Reiner.
What is the first thing you buy in a baseball game? A hot dog? A hot dog. Without mustard? Mm-mm. Mustard goes with a hot dog. Not with mine. Mustard was made for the hot dog. Now, but look, I don't like mustard. Mustard and the hot dog go together. Let them go together. I don't want to spoil any romance. Do you know they spend millions of dollars every year to put up factories just to manufacture mustard? Do you know those factories employ thousands and thousands of men just to manufacture mustard? Do you know those men take care of thousands of families and homes, all on account of mustard? And you, just because you don't like mustard, what do you want them to do? Close those factories down and put all those people out of work? You mean to sit there and tell me just because I don't eat mustard, I'm going to close down the mustard factory? No, wait a minute. No. Are you trying to tell me that those thousands of people are making one little jar of mustard like this just for me? No, wait a minute. You don't understand. Well, if you can tell them not to make any more because I'm not going to eat it. All right, so you don't like it. I like Worcestershire sheer shorts. You like what? Worcestershire sheer shorts. Worcestershire sheer shorts. You can't even share. But I don't go for mustard. You don't like mustard, huh? I don't like it. No, I like Worcestershire sheer shorts.
All right, Abbott Costello, Carl Reiner, then we'll discuss it after the break.
One of television comedy's founding fathers, Reiner first came into our homes as a featured player on Your Show of Shows. Reiner is probably best known for creating The Dick Van Dyke Show.
Carl understood there's no such thing as an adult. An adult is his costume and mannerism that a kid puts on in order to make it through life.
Oh, and remember comedy albums? He and Mel Brooks had one of the biggest with The 2,000-Year-Old Man.
That's 100% Carl Reiner. And that's why he worked so well with Mel, because Mel will tell you himself he needed to be up front. And Carl was a champion from the sides.
There's a stereotype about comics being dark. Carl Reiner was all light.
And that's what he brought to everything. Pure joy.
All right, we're having some pure joy here on Everything Old is New Again. Mayhem. We'll be back right this. Who's the funniest of all time?
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hey, this is Richard Kahn. You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, but what you're listening to is new and it has nothing to do with old. You're just talking about old, but this is all new.
There we go. We are exactly that. Here on Everything Old is New Again, Dan Newberger, Douglas Viviani, and David Cohen are discussing and trying to figure out the final brackets here of who is the funniest of all time. We just ended off comparing Abbott Costello against Carl Reiner. I'll go first. Carl Reiner, I admire. Carl Reiner wrote, directed, and acted funny his entire career, was a part of a comedy team, with Mel Brooks and 2,000-Year-Old Man, was a great straight person in terms of, those kind of setups and comedy. The guy was amazing. He created Dick Van Dyke Show. But for me, I can't get beyond Abbott Costello. Even their routines now, as we just listened to the mustard routine, David and I were still, even to this day, laughing at their routine and their presentation. So I don't know. That's for me. It's going to be Abbott Costello. Dan, where are you on this?
Yeah, Carl Reiner is a genius, and you got to give the man props for that. And by the way, your viewers who have been weighing in here are about evenly split between Carl Reiner and Abbott and Costello, which I find not at all surprising. I have to choose Abbott and Costello. I mean, you think about things like Who's on First, some of the classic acts. I love the two of them. I'm going to go with them.
There you go, David.
Yeah, I got to say Abbott and Costello, too. I mean, it's a little unfair to compare them because Carl Reiner wasn't necessarily a performer. A lot of what he did was behind the scenes and, just incredibly funny, timeless stuff, of course. But, there's something about visual and seeing somebody being funny, that I think has a little bit of an advantage. And Abbott and Costello, yeah, of course. Just hearing that bit, right? Talk about like seeing versus hearing, like even on the radio, right? That play, you could tell Abbott is just like, he just knows how to be funny, right? He's so passionate about the mustard and everything and just because you don't like mustard. And it was just so funny,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
One final word is, and I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not trying to be nasty, but if you watch the old Show of Shows, you'd see him perform as well, and you would see the comedy on that. He was like a Dan Aykroyd type, but everything.
No, I remember him on he was on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, the Dick Van Dyke Show, right? He was
every so often, yes, but he wasn't so funny there. The Show of Shows, he did funny characters, but I agree with you everything you said. Other than that, so let's go to Mel Brooks against Monty Python.
Lord, I shall give these laws unto thy people.
This is not fair.
Hear me. Oh, hear me. All pay heed. The Lord Jehovah, has given unto you these 15. Wait. 10 commandments.
There we go. So a little something. I got to cut a little short. There's Mel Brooks. We know lots of Mel Brooks work and Monty Python here.
This scribbler, writer of jokes. In a few moments, he will have written the funniest joke in the world, and as a consequence, he will die laughing. It was obvious that this joke was lethal. No one could read it and live.
I shall enter the house and attempt to remove the joke. I shall be aided by the sound of somber music played on gramophone records and also by the chanting of laments by the men of Q Division. The atmosphere thus created should protect me in the eventuality of me reading the joke.
This will surely be remembered as one of the most courageous and gallant acts in police history.
All right, so that goes on and on. That's just a little more introduction. If you haven't known Monty Python, a little something there. It's going to be a tough one here. Dan, where are you on Mel Brooks versus Monty Python?
I'm just going to jump into the pool here because I mean, to this day, I still quote Monty Python movies and the television show. But how can you not go with Mel Brooks as one of the funniest people ever? So my vote is with Mel Brooks.
Okay, David.
Yeah, it's really not fair. But I guess you have to have these like collisions along the way here. Look, I'm just going on how much each one has made me laugh over the years, and the edge goes to Monty Python for me.
Wow. Okay. And that makes it even more difficult for me because I have to decide. And Mel Brooks behind the scenes writing is amazing. Mel Brooks acting is okay. Mel Brooks as a comedy team with 2,000-Year-Old Man is amazing. Monty Python always made me laugh. It was a different offsetting type of humor, something that was my own that I could own after David Cohen introduced them to me. So it's very, I walked out of the producers. It's a whole nother story. We know that, right, David Cohen? So, wow, I can't not. I don't know how I don't say Mel Brooks, though I really don't want to. It's the best way I can say it. I've got to say Mel Brooks for the body of work, Young Frankenstein and so forth, more behind the scenes than anything. Am I wrong? Talk me out of it. I could be talked out of either way. I don't know where. I really, this is so even for me. I don't know where to go.
No, it's tough. It's a tough one.
But I got to go Mel Brooks just for.
I'm not upset.
I will do that because you didn't vote for Gene Shepard, so maybe I'll phrase it that way.
There you go, a little revenge.
A revenge vote.
That's maybe I can do it that way. Make sense. All right, the last two: Steve Martin and Johnny. I was saying Steve Martin and Jackie Gleason on Art Carney.
I'm sorry, but I am angry. I come out here and I can't get a little cooperation from the backstage crew. Excuse me.
Look, I wish you good luck on the special. I understand that you have to leave.
I have to go.
Be somewhere this evening and go.
I have to rehearse.
I know. Look, I know you're doing a movie.
Yeah, I appreciate
Thanks for
it.
being here.
Thank you
Steve
very much.
Martin. Thanks, Steve.
I don't have to leave. I was lying. I see all the big stars come on. They always have to leave. I just thought I had to leave, but I don't have to.
Steve Martin, they are bringing his comedy to the Tonight Show as well. Here we go, Gleason.
I'm sorry.
No, it's the same act. Hold on, Gleason.
All right, now I want to ask you a question. Right. You got the cigarettes?
Oh, yeah.
All right, now. I want you to go up there, but before you go, I want to know a few things. Are you thirsty? No. Are you hungry?
No.
Everything's fine?
Sure.
Okay, now that I've asked you that, get up there. Get up there.
Ralph, you forgot to ask me one thing. Did I want a match?
This is the end.
Gentlemen, what seems to be the trouble?
What seems to be the trouble? I'll tell you what the trouble is. First of all, he makes my wife and his own wife miss the train because he can't keep an eye on them. Then he gets in here, puts handcuffs on my wrist. That isn't enough. I ask him if he wants a drink of water. No. I ask him if he wants something to eat. No. He doesn't want anything until he gets up there, and then he wants a match. And on top of everything, I got to be handcuffed to this idiot all the way to Minneapolis.
Minneapolis? Gentlemen, this train isn't going to Minneapolis. We're going in the other direction, to Norfolk, Virginia.
There we go. David Cohen, you're going to have to start this one off.
Oh, God. Well, it's getting harder and harder.
Yeah.
All right, I got to go with the laugh factor. Like, how often do I laugh at both of these people, right? So, Jackie Gleason, there's nothing to say about him. Whenever he's on, he's funny, no matter what he's doing.
And we're categorizing
his
his
variety
Gleason
shows, The Honeymooners, I mean, he kind of petered out later on, honestly.
Yeah. We put it together somehow as Gleason and Art Carney together for whatever it's worth. So,
oh, we did?
Yeah. I don't know how we did that, how that came
out, so it's Gleason and Carney.
Yeah.
Versus
Steve Martin.
Oh, that's not fair. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with Steve Martin because over the years I've just laughed at him more. Whether he's doing stand-up, as a writer, I mean, he's written some plays that were very funny. I think in a lot of different ways, he was just enormously funny. So
okay, there you go. I'm going to say that to me, these two in another world would be in the final four. I mean, so it's really not fair. Like I'm not saying one's so much better than the other. They're giants. But I guess I'm going to go this way. In the 70s, Steve Martin was the funniest guy on the planet to me, and I bought those two albums and listened to them over and over again. We saw him at Nassau Coliseum, Saturday Night Live, the movie The Jerk. I just loved everything he did. Then it dropped off, but that, Father the Bride and that kind of stuff. But that's okay. I mean, I loved him, but if I'm going to look at The Honeymooners, for example, I watch The Honeymooners still to this day and still laugh. Why is that? Because of Jackie Gleason and Art Carney's teamwork and the improvisation that they did every so often. And certainly they did that through the 70s, the 60s, of course, and the 70s in all of Gleason's incarnation of his shows. So I'm going to go with Gleason and Art Carney. Finally, Dan, where are you going to go?
So you guys are split, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I was hoping I was going to get the easy vote here. So Ralph Cramden is hilarious. That show is, one of the best shows ever to be on TV. Eric Fried from Chicago, one of your listeners, wrote in that Gleason and Carney, get the award in my mind. I love that show, the friendship shown on it. They're hilarious. I don't disagree with that, but here's the thing. Cramden was such a great character, but it really was the one thing that I think of when I think of Art Carney and Jackie Gleason. Whereas with Steve Martin, who I had the privilege of seeing in the late 70s at the Nassau Coliseum with the Blues Brothers. In fact, you guys may have seen the same show. He has been funny to me in so many different ways, even recently on television shows. This is another really difficult one, but I'm going to go with Steve Martin.
All right, there we go. So Steve Martin wins that. Let's just summarize today's show, and we're going to be back next week. To now, we've boiled it down down to the final 32. We got the Marx Brothers, we got Lily Tomlin, we got Will Ferrell, and we've got Albert Brooks, we've got Dick Van Dyke, George Carlin, Abbott Costello, Mel Brooks, and Steve Martin. Thank you, gentlemen. We will be back next week to continue the search for the funniest person of all time.